Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to WOR and welcome back to the Legacy Division. We should be in for another cracking event ahead of us here. Welcome aboard to this next round of this championship, brought to you at the Spanish Grand Prix for this season 7, round number 7 tournament here, where we're going to be doing a little bit of something different once again. Welcome aboard with myself, none other than Adam Roberts. That is Bobberts for this event here. We're going to wrap it up very quickly indeed, because we're going to be getting straight into a sprint race with this one here. It is March 10th, which means we've got our Spanish Grand Prix sprint race weekend, so everyone's going to be wanting to get very quickly on with it here. 28 seconds before we get on with it here, Adam. Should be a good one, this.
Yep, it certainly will be. I don't see as to why not. Obviously, a legendary circuit to Catalunya here outside Barcelona. Track has changed its layout a few times over the coming years, but I think the layout that we have now is kind of the best that we have, obviously, for previous generations and current generations as we go to the final 10 seconds for this one-shot qualifying session, which we'll sort out for the sprint race.
Yes, here we go then. So a bit more about the full swing of this as we get on with the race then, as, well, rather the one-shot qualifying as we see people getting onto the circuit. We're going to be initially following on board with Seed, but only 19 runners for this event. More about that one in just a second. We're following at the moment. It looks like the AMR driver of Ivan Eskring not having the best turn 1, but slowing fast out for him as he climbs up the rankings to try and get up towards the likes of Silo and Snack. Radadal and Polymassy also in the mix as well, as Radadal going back up to P1, but going for the slower entry as they go through into turn number 4. Looking a little bit more sharper on the exit though, as with Snack with the Zeman Radadol right back up in the mix, and RWO6 showing immediately the pressure out there as we've lost one of the Bravo Racing Club drivers, Shumi. He starts at the back of this event as we just keep an eye on Radadol going through turn 6. Looking particularly sharp then is the man through 7 and 8 rather, through at the top end of 9 as Radadol now is settling into P5 at the moment. His teammate Azim in there, and no surprises, GT10's uncle straight into the mix now up at the top. But SCI looking relatively sharp. They continue on their runs as the fastest team at the moment on console and looking particularly sharp. But Uncle is wanting to knock on the door of potentially getting a front row start here for this sprint race, chucking the car through the final corner of turn number 14. It looks like Snack is going to be on pole. He comes across the line and beats Uncle and Silo, but GT10 once again pulling out their Joker card with Uncle, who manages to get on the front row and splitting Silo. His pace a little bit off, but still very fast.
Certainly is. I mean, it was almost the perfect qualifying there for SCI, but they're not going to be too downhearted by that, starting P1 and P3. And we know, as I've seen Snack both in, here in Legacy Division and in WR, and competing for himself, that he's a good qualifying merchant. But let's hope he can transform that into the race. But yeah, good qualifying for him. Uncle, obviously, who's transformed GT10, I think it's fair to say, and he certainly set them alight over the last at least 4 races. Hopefully he can try and do it again tonight, so he starts there in P2. But a mixture of a grid, and ET8 as well, also there, considering that they're so far down in the standings. This is hopefully what they might see as a turning point for them, even if it is just for a sprint race.
AMR down in 7th and 9th place, uncharacteristic for them, as well as RWO6 and Epic Vale for RSC down the order as well. So an opportunity here for the team, the Scottish outfit, to try and extend their lead in the championship. Currently, as it stands, a gap starting to grow a little bit. 45 points between them and RSC. AMR knocking on the door as well in P3. Venturi now up to P4 with Future Racing Team, only 2 points behind them for P5. Grand Track 10 were down in P10 only a few rounds ago. They're P6 on 144. They've eclipsed ET8, who are down in 7th. IRT in 8th. BRC 9th. Fastest stay true, saying seeing the slowest stay last in 10th at the moment on 70. So, situation report at the moment is very much that, well, ET8 really are on the back foot here, and their pace at least showing a little bit of comfort for the sprint now. But let's be perfectly candid, they're in a lot of trouble.
They certainly are. I mean, yes, they've won 1 race this season. That goes back to round 2, I believe, where we had the double header as well, and then had a 2nd and a 4th place. But outside of that, they've been near enough every single time, apart from one driver last week, outside the top 10, or not even finishing, or even being disqualified. So it certainly wasn't on my bingo card list. Would ET8 be down in P7 nearly halfway through into the season? Absolutely not. They've still got time to recover. But, finding themselves 112 points off last season's champions, SCI, and obviously coming runners up to them, is not what they would wanted. So hopefully for Azim And Ryderdale here tonight, they can maybe try and change that and transform their fortunes. But you've got a lot of teams that are in form. Obviously, GT10 with Uncle in particular, bang in form. FRT last time out were also very good. It's anybody's guess, and it changes every week.
Yeah, problem for FRT, though, is that they've only got one driver for the sprint race as well, because Jude will not be taking part in the sprint race, but he will be here for the main race alongside Adrian. And to make it even worse for RSC, both of their drivers have got to serve a 5-place grid penalty at the end of qualifying for the main race as well. Nico for Ventara has got to serve a 3-place as well on top of that, which is going to add a little bit more mess in that midfield. But RSC, a team second place in the title with a 5-place grid penalty for both of their drivers here tonight, is not particularly comfortable for them, especially considering in the sprint race, or at least in sprint qualifying anyway, they did not have the pace. They're well down the field compared to where they usually are.
Indeed, and I mean, qualifying is one thing. Absolutely, a lot of people aren't the best at when it comes to one-shot qualifying. It's the same with VNT, obviously, as well, with being 13th and 14th. But maybe they have a plan in mind as to what to do in the sprint format. You probably see a lot of drivers pit at the end of lap 1 or lap 2, get off whatever tyres are on. Probably going to be the softs, maybe throw on a set of mediums. You can run the same tyre here twice in the sprint format as long as it doesn't rain. But either way, we are coming onto the grid, Jota, for this 11-lap shootout.
Yeah, we certainly are, as we're going to be hoping that these drivers will have a clean race ahead of them. We're in a sprint in Barcelona, and Snack will do his best to try and defend here from Tony Reich Uncle, who has been showing some serious pace for GT10. He'll continue on that pressure. Keep an eye on Nazim as well, who's willing to get in there as well. Around the outside, he'll have to defend from Silo there, will Tony Reich. Very well handled, from Uncle on that situation. RWO6 and Ivan Eskrig also getting in their own little battle here. A strong battle here between AMR and RSC in the title, as Uncle's lost a position to Silo. They'll continue battling towards the front as he goes around the outside. Does Uncle? He's going to get on the grass. Snack has made a mistake. He spins out. Silo takes the lead of this race, but getting on the grass, Uncle lost a position to Asim, so he holds on to P3 anyway. Uncharacteristic mistake from the Scottish outfit. He's at the back.
I've never seen anything like that, especially from a race leader perspective, as we're going too wide through the chicane of 7 and 8 there in the midfield. That is Polly Massey alongside Ivan Eskrig, and Ivan Eskrig comes out on top on that one, and in behind them you got Epic Vale now trying to get a move here, but he's got Adrian on his outside. I think I saw a bit of front wing there being kicked up, and I think that's from Polly Massey, who's now been spun round just to add insult to injury there. He's got wing damage and he's been spun round. He'll actually now probably get overtaken by Snack around the outside potentially, but that's two drivers with their races ruined. But yeah, back to Snack, uncharacteristic. It was his own mistake. He wasn't even under pressure. The only good thing was at least he didn't take his teammate with him.
Yeah, so that's the thing, isn't it? Very well handled from Silo to avoid the collision, especially with how close he was getting into a scrap with Uncle. But Uncle's still losing that position regardless, is now splitting both of the ET8 boys. What an opportunity for ET8 to earn back some big points in the title here, but in the title hunt rather, but they're so far behind. They may be considering here that just the title might be just out of grasp for them already at this early part of this season. Actually, we're just about midway through, if we're honest with you. AMR will be happy with that situation as well, but they need to make some inroads, and they're starting to do so. Position up for the pair of them in 6th and 8th place, but that's probably only just because Snack went for that spin. Polymassey also struggling as well. Worth making note, a little mistake as well from the other GT10 driver of Mad Dogs. He went a little bit wide at turn 11, so he went very wide and lost a few positions. He's now down in P17. So as it stands at the end of lap 2 of 11 in this sprint race, Silo leading the way from Azim, Uncle in 3rd from Ryderdal, RWO6, even Eskrig, Adrian in P7, as we've lost Snack, and it looks like it's in the pits.
It's not, he's been
down
the
exit of turn
9. Yeah, he's been down the exit of turn 9. He got the move done on Polly Massey, was trying to close in on the train in front, but I think he's just gone too far wide and the curb may have spit him out, and obviously, well, no VSC, no safety car, no nothing here as Silo sets the fastest lap of the race. And as I sort of anticipated, we have some early stoppers to get off the soft compounded tyre, get onto the mediums, obviously Polly Massey being one, then you got Mad Dogs, Epic Vale and Nico Castronova. They were in the midfield area, so keep an eye on where they're going to be now in these fresh set of boots. Worth pointing out that Simon Gavros actually started on the medium compound tyre, trying to do something a little different. Obviously go to the softs at some point. Whether that'll work for them is another matter. Either way, there's now a gap in between from 8th to 9th, obviously from those pit stoppers, and Matt is now out of the DRS and White Sheep in front. No real moves happening up at the front though, Jota. Everyone just seems to be a little bit cool and collected for the time being. Maybe they're just going to wait Another 5 or 6 laps.
A little bit wide there from Uncle as well. Probably take a warning for that one. Then from Tony Rees, who's just trying to hold on for P3. Radadal started to put a little bit of pressure now on that Red Bull. Now it's a very long time since I've seen that particular livery from Red Bull. I know it's a livery that we're all very much used to, but now we've got the new season. We've of course got the new Red Bull livery, and I've seen a lot of people using the special Red Bull livery, so it's the first time we'll see that one. And the first pit stop as well for Radadal and Uncle, who are both pitting. Of course, if you are not familiar with the sprint race format in WOR Formula 1 sprint racing, you have to commit to a pit stop, at least one pit stop in this race. A lot of people electing to go soft medium as what we're expecting. Soft medium going on for the rest of the people that have now made a pit stop, we suspect here. But Adrian is the one that's the person leading from the front here. Be interested to see what the undercut is like. It's not very powerful around here, so just keeping an eye on Ventari's Nico. Where is he going to be able to get any jumps on people, I wonder? As he heads down the back straight now, he gets an overtake done on Harm, no issue whatsoever. Gets an overtake done on Adrian. Is he going to get past White Sheep as well? Critical here between Ventari and AMR. Of course, they're not really in a championship fight directly, but taking points off each other would, of course, help each other out, especially that of FRT, the only driver racing for them tonight, Adrian, for this sprint race. Hopefully, we will get Jude later on in the main race ahead of us, but so far, so good for those at the front. Silo and Azim managing to hold their stations. There we've got Ivan Eskrig a few seconds back in AMR's hands in P3, but no doubt he'll be making a pit stop imminently. And then just keep a very firm eye as well on the IRT team. That's 5th and 6th. Sieb has started on the medium tyre, as has Gavroche for Ventauri.
Indeed, yeah. So IRT splitting their strategy with Lucas and Sieb, and Lucas staying out another lap to try and help carry his teammate along a bit as the leaders now go into the pit. So it's a case of now see where will Uncle or Tony come out in relation to Azim and Silo. He was P3 behind the pair of them as he made his pit stop. But it's a case of will he undercut them, or will he come out in between, or will he come out behind them again as they exit the pit lane. Here comes Uncle now coming down past the pit straight and onto the pit exit, and I think by the looks of it he's going to stay behind them. So yeah, the undercut not really working to his advantage. He's all over the gearbox though of that Red Bull in front of him as Azim's tyres try to get up to temperature, but the traction of the something corner speed through turn 3 there from Azim was brilliant, and he holds on to what is a net P2 for the time being. Silo stays ahead of the pair of them, so yeah, undercut didn't work at all.
Yeah, it didn't work at all. It's not a very powerful circuit for the undercut here, and that is a good demonstration of that at the moment. So Silo still in the net lead of this race, in about 14 seconds back from Gavroche, from Sieb, and from Lucas. Lucas still on a soft tyre to start this. That started this race, so surely he's going to be pitting imminently. Sieb and Gavroche are the only people that we wouldn't expect to pit stop too early in this one. There is the pit that we expected from Lucas, but Sieb and Gavroche on that medium tyre now will consider their strategy. I think they'll work with each other to extend this stint by a few more laps before they move over to a soft tyre. On a 24-second pit stop here as well, so they'll lose a bucket of time, especially considering how close everyone is. That DRS train falling from Silo as far down as, I believe, Epic Vale.
Indeed it is, yeah, and what's even more interesting is the fact that Matt has gone on to another set of soft tyres. So, interesting strategy call there to go from soft to soft again. He can do that, there's nothing to say that he cannot, as Sieb completely locks up going into turn 5, making a mistake there. But yeah, these two out in front, 14 seconds clear of the rest of the pack. But yeah, they're going to tumble all the way down to pretty much to where, probably down to Harm and Mad Dogs, if I'm brutally honest. So, may not work for them now. We'll see how it does later on, but they're probably going to have to pit in this or the next lap. So, Silo will be the net race leader, but he's obviously, like I said, got the best part of 12 cars in this DRS train, and Lucas now got onto another set of soft tyres at the back of this train, keeping out on him in these early few laps as his tyres get up to temperature.
Yeah, remember, of course, they wanted to try and get into the top 10 and score those points that are available in this particular event for those in the top 10. Keep an eye on Silo as he's making his way around the circuit here at the moment. He's the net leader of this race in what is actually turning out to be a real missed opportunity for the Shizou Cedar Igniters, and I think that is the epitome of their season, hasn't it? SCI have been, you know, they're there or thereabouts, but there has been a few balls dropped from SCI this season. Silo being the only person now with Snack, of course, crashing out of this race after making that pretty horrific mistake on the first lap. You know, offering an opportunity for ETA to sort of swallow up some good points here. It's just a shame that they're so far down in the standings.
It is indeed so far down, and in fact 112 points down in comparison to the Scottish outfitters. I'm still sticking on board with Lucas. He's trying to go around the outside of turn 3, but Epic Vale closes the door there and into 4. There's just no way through here. It's so difficult at the best of times to overtake around here. You know, even by following these cars so closely, I thought it was going to fake and move to the inside into 5, but nothing really happening. But yeah, how many times did we say last season with SCI, you know, seeing those double podiums or 2 drivers, you know, just, you know, if one was on the podium, the other one was in the top 5 all last season. And you go to this season, and yeah, the best driver's been no worse than 4th. But the second driver the only best has been 7th on 2 occasions, as Lucas finally gets the move done down the inside into turn 10 there, late braking move, and that is the kick Sauber up into P13. But yeah, it's what a difference the season makes, Jota. I mean, yeah, they're still leading, but it's not as comfortable as maybe they would have liked.
Yeah, it's a very resemblant of the old Team Shizou from Season 4, isn't it? They've still managed to win the title, but the difference between driver A and B was pretty significant in that season, and that's kind of what's starting to creep in a little bit again for the Shizou Cedar Igniters. So something that they just need to work on as they go into the game cycle 1.5, if you will, when the F126 cars eventually get into this game. Disappointingly, no, obviously new game, but it is what it is at this point, as we'll keep an eye out on a little lock-up there from Silo, who's feeling just a little bit of pressure starting to build here off the back of Azim. What a good sprint race victory this could be for ET8 if they keep that battle up, keep that fight on against Silo, a man who, you know, to be fair to him, still the fastest man on console, but he's taken a little bit of a beating in WOR Legacy recently, especially with the sort of serious pace of Tony Reich at the moment, and maybe confidence slightly knocked.
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, Silo's a tough cookie even when the going gets tough. But as the song goes, tough gets going as Seb. Yeah, I kind of went into a song moment there, I'll be honest. I can't remember who sung that, but I'm sure as well, Jota, you might know. Maybe if you're into your 90s and 2000s pop music, perhaps, I don't know. Might be barking up the wrong tree, maybe. But either way, yeah, not really good for Steve there, speeding into the pit lane. That's his race done and dusted. I did kind of predict about Gavroche and himself coming out somewhere in the Harm and Mad Dogs region. That's exactly where Gavroche came out. He's now got ahead of everybody there, and yet he's still behind Seb.
Still behind Seb and on a fresh soft tyre, but with a 10-second penalty doesn't help. The man representing IRT, one of the oldest teams still existing within the F1 esports sphere. We've got a half spinner. It's one of the McLarens. It's Polly Massey, who's had a little bit of an incident at some point on his lap, but he's down in P18, lap 9 of 11, as we've got Silo heading his way up towards then the top of turn 9. He'll head down towards 10, still leading this race, but still a few lockups occurring for the Alpino Renault, but to me, looking like he's just developing the race now a little bit. The last couple of laps should be easy, nothing to worry about in terms of tyres, so just don't make any mistakes, and you find yourself a sprint race winner once again, Silo.
It's easier said than done, though. His teammate found a cropper into that, obviously, on lap 1, but yeah, you would have thought that Silo would have done, should do that with 2 laps to go here. Obviously, we can see that there has been a bit of a break in this train. Nico Castanova hasn't quite got the pace of the top 6, and is now fallen over 2.5 seconds behind now. The lead group, as it were, Seb there, even with that penalty, goes for the move on Epic Vale. He now goes into P12. Not that it's really going to be for anything, it's just pride more than anything else. So you've got this lead 6 here out in front. You got 5 different teams represented in this, but critically 2 of them are from ETA, who I think will be quite happy as it currently stands, being in 2nd and 4th, and Azim still has a chance on the final lap if he can get a good run out of 13 and 14 to maybe get him moved on and Silo into 1. Wait and see.
He needs to put the pressure on and needs to put it on pretty quickly here, because 6.5 tenths is a significant margin. Even with DRS, you'll find yourself not getting anywhere near another big lockup from Silo, but still able to hit his apex, I think, and if anything, actually just lost about 0.5 tenth to Azim. But is he going to get the traction out the corner? How quickly is Azim going to get on the throttle? You can see he does get on the throttle quite easily. Azim gets caught out and loses the rear slightly, and loses about 1.5 in doing so. Goes around the final corner, gap about 6.5 tenths, using overtake as much as he can. Azim and Silo will be doing exactly the same thing, but DRS getting closer and closer and closer. But as I said, I don't think he's going to be close enough to consider any kind of pressure on Azim, on Silo rather. Will Azim. Uncle is around about 3/4 of a second now behind, and finding himself to not really be on any kind of pressure from Ryder Nadal at the moment, so it will be another cracking podium for GT10, albeit on the sprint race. Well, how will that convert into the main race, though, is another question. Worth making note, as you rightfully said, about not just the top 6 teams being represented, 6 places being represented by 5 different teams. It's actually the top 7 separated by 6 different teams, because Venturi have got Nico up in P7. It's a great effort, actually, from the team currently 4th place in the standings, who, of course, looking to try and close down the gap on the front 3, or at least extend the gap against the Future Racing team, with Adrian only down in 10th, and, of course, a DNS for Jude. That would offer good opportunity maybe for Venturi to start stretching out their legs, regardless of Gavroche going for potentially a half spin and losing a couple of positions down in P15. It won't even matter, though, in the end for Silo. They'll be very happy from a personal perspective, but it's just a shame that SCI couldn't make it the 1-2. Regardless, Silo wins here at the sprint race here in Spain. Azim finishes in 2nd from Tony Reich in 3rd, Ryder Dahl's 4th, RWO6 making it a decent P5 for RSC. Ivan Eskrig coming across the line for 6th, with Venturi, Nico in 7th, White Sheep in 8th, for AMR, KP Adrian representing FRT in 9th, Lucas rounding out the top 10. Decent effort, regardless, from Fastest Stay True to get at least into 11th place, but nil point for them in this sprint race. But opportunity on the cards for another big points haul if they can at least find that extra 10th, extra 100th of a second for Fastest Stay True down at the foot of the field. There's your results.
There are your results. Just going to point out with FST there, though, I'm afraid, Jota, they do have a grid penalty for qualifying, unfortunately, because of a incorrect submitted lineup, I believe. So, not really what they would have wanted. So either way, they'll just have to, see what they can do in the race. But obviously, that was 11 laps through, flew by very, very quickly there. And well, I think the happiest team out of all that, I think out of everybody there, is certainly going to be ET8.
Yeah, ET8 certainly going to be the happiest out of that one as well, and you're absolutely right about that one, because if we take a look at the grid lineup for tonight's race, which I believe, if I could find it, is this one, you can see there that we've got Matt Seven, who definitely did race in the race here tonight, but Harm was the one that raced for Fastest Stay True. We've got it documented as Robin, so an incorrect lineup once again. Administration issues out of the wazoo for the Fastest Stay True team, so they will be serving another grid penalty from that. They've got to try and get this in line here for a championship like this one, to not have an understanding of who's going to be racing in one of the biggest events in esports, for outside of the main esports event. A little bit poor.
It is, and I'd like to say it's a simple thing, really, but unfortunately it turns out to be a big issue and in all honesty, the same teams that you see keep cropping up doing it time and time again. So yeah, maybe a little bit of communication and a little bit of just paying attention to things just wouldn't go amiss for some people, but that's how you learn from it sometimes, even if it does take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts. Who knows how many times that it does take. Obviously, we do now have everyone will retire, and we will get going once again very shortly in this little bit of a lull in between. But the point standings have already been updated. Very well done there by, I'm going to presume, was it yourself, Jota, or was it Luke?
It might have been Luke on this one. I'm not going to take credit for that one. I
was going to say, did you not want to take it?
No, I'm not going to take credit. I could have done.
You just said that you did.
I could have done, but I don't have 3 arms, unfortunately, because I'm monitoring the race while monitoring the stream at the same time. So unfortunately, I can't do the admin on this as well. But fair play to Luke giving us up the update. So these are the standings post Singapore that you see on the screen, folks. What I'm going to do is go through what we've got post sprint, and now, of course, this is excluding any kind of penalties that we've got here in this one as well, as I believe it's just seen when me has just appeared on the screen, so that will be Luke on that one. Here's the situation. So it's 2:58 now for SCI as a result of that race victory, and then you follow on with 2:07 for RSC, so the gap has extended from 45 to 51. AMR have gone from 193 to 201. Venturi are now on 177. FRT have gone to 173. Grand Track 10 are on 152. ET8 are 7th with 151. So 1 point separating ET8 and Grand Track 10 as a result of that sprint race now. IRT on 91. BRC are on 78. And FST stay on 70 as well. So bottom 3 teams have all stayed exactly where they are, but the top 7 have all gained something from that race.
They certainly have done, whether it was just a few points or a bucket load of points, obviously, in the sprint format. So, yeah, good effort obviously by those, especially the teams in towards the top half, and a good effort there obviously from Tony for GT10 to at least maintain what is their P6 as it currently stands. As well, Ferrari there just pretending like it's the Ferrari with the very small turbo in real life, getting a fantastic start off the grid there and finding himself at the front of the field. I mean, we'll see that plenty
You
more
won't.
times this season.
Unfortunately, the thing is that the guys and the stream are not going to see what we're seeing at the moment. But we'll just say it's abject chaos at the moment,
Yes.
to be honest with you, because it's actually raining. So I'm fuming that this lobby's not being used because
You don't know how many times I have been fuming with that in WR in itself for commentating Tier 1. The last few races, it's like we've had rain and obviously we've got to restart it. So it's like it's just been frustrating.
I'm absolutely livid, to put it bluntly, because this is not a race known for its overtaking. Of course, so having the rain in there does add a nice little extra fuel to the fire, but nonetheless, we'll have a race restart as we've just got confirmation that Jude Frederick of FRT has just now joined the lobby, so he is taking part for FRT. Speaking of which, here is the grid for tonight-ish. More about that in a second. Silo and Snack then are leading the way for SCI here tonight with Azim and Ryder Dahl for ET8. Jude and Adrian, as Jude has finally made it in for the main race, will be racing for FRT, but Epic Veiler and Rayan will both be serving a 5-place grid penalty for RSC. Nico will be serving a 3-place grid penalty for Ventari tonight, but Gavroche is available and free to do as he pleases. Ivan Eskrig and White Sheep for AMR tonight. Polly and Shumi for BRC. Matt Seven and not Robin, it's Harm tonight for Fastest Stay True, and that results in FST serving another administrative error penalty, so more about that in a second. Mad Dogs and Tony GT10, and then Seb and Lucas for IRT tonight. I don't believe that's Lucas either. I have a feeling that actually is. In fact, I think it is Lucas, isn't it? Correct me on that one. So apologies, I'm getting all my names mixed up. But regardless, going back to that point about Fastest Stay True, of course it's their maiden voyage into Legacy Division, but to get your your management so wrong so many times and not be taking the learnings, this week break that's coming up gives them an opportunity to do some reshuffling, surely.
You'd have thought so, or at least for the person or the individual or individuals that are responsible, obviously, for doing it, to just ensure that you just set a little alarm or something, just to make sure that it gets done, and just make sure that what you're putting is correct in terms of the right format. It's not rocket science. I mean, I'm saying that as a previous managerial aspect, for both for the teams that I've been in the past and currently still are. But anyway, that's just they'll learn from it one way or another, and they'll learn it the hard way, especially considering that it's going to cost them in qualifying, as it will again here tonight. But either way, let's hope for during the break week they can sort something out, or at least get back on track from when we return for Belgium around Spa-Francorchamps.
And I hope, sorry, you may have just seen me just quickly flick back to the drivers for just a second to try and figure out who we're missing, because in the lobby right now, it looks like we've lost one of the BRC drivers. So I'm wondering if Schumacher, or Schumi or whatever, has decided to leave the session thinking there'd be a new lobby when there isn't one. So that could be a little bit of a problem, especially considering all the team are readying up, and they're trying to ready up as quickly as they can. So the McLarens will be wanting to keep an eye on that one. We were speaking about that break week though. March 17th next week, of course, we have got no WOR action or Legacy Division action on March 17th, as everyone deserves a well-earned break from what has been an absolutely mental season of Legacy Division. We'll be heading over to Belgium though in 2 weeks' time after this one for our final visit to the Formula 2 cars, which proved to be quite a fun escapade at Monaco last time out. We've got our next Force races the week after that in Las Vegas, March 31st. Saudi Arabia and Bahrain for the Reverse Championship races, both taking part on April 7th. And then April 14th, it's the final of the Banhard races at the United States Grand Prix. I'll be asking you a question about that one in a second for you here, Adam, as well as a mystery circuit on April 21st. Wrapping it off with a familiar F1 sprint race at Sao Paulo on April 28th. April 14th, Banhard. Banhard's proved to be a very tricky situation at the Mexico City Grand Prix, High Deg Circuit. High Deg Circuit again at the United States Grand Prix, where the undercut is so powerful in Texas.
It certainly is, and we've already had that in WR in itself when I commentated on it just 10 days ago now, and that was that was an interesting one, seeing the different obviously the tyre allocations with the hard tyres being banned in itself with WR as it is. So the fact that we're going to have a repeat of that, obviously in just over 5 weeks' time, will be interesting. Some of those drivers will know what that is like. They'll have an idea. Some of them won't. So they're certainly going to have to get some practice in. And but yeah, undercut around Kota, at least, especially compared to here, is so powerful. You know, one lap you are gaining the best part of 2 to 3 seconds nearly, and that's not me, you know, just making up numbers there. That is a fact. It doesn't matter if you're going from soft to medium or medium to soft or whatever. That's just how it is. It looks like, Jota, we're going with just the 19.
Interesting. So it looks like we have lost one of the BRC drivers here. No, he's just managed to join in just in time. But yes, you know, the situation report is that, you know, the drivers have obviously got to experience something a little bit different, haven't they? Now, with the Legacy Division, we've done 6 seasons of pretty much the same thing, so why not throw a little bit of spanner in the works? And I've been very much enjoying this season because, let's be honest, Legacy Division, partially a gimmick, partially something of interest. There is a monetary value on the line for these drivers, so to do something a little bit different always poses a nice little challenge in itself. We've got the lobby just getting going for short qualifying in just a moment here. We'll be getting going with the continued coverage of this event. Keep an eye out on what is going to happen. Are we going to see our favourites once again climbing on top, or are we going to see something new potentially on the horizon? Don't go away. We're back in just a minute. Welcome back to WOR and the Legacy Division then. So we are continuing on with our coverage of this, the 7th round of this 7th season of WOR Legacy Division, coming at you live from the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. It is myself, James Otter Jota, alongside Adam Roberts, my fellow grey-haired pairing, as we continue on with our coverage throughout qualifying in this one. So, situation report. Nice, bright sunshine out on circuit here, Adam. So, what are we going to do is the question. We expect being a short qualifying, no intermediate runs, so it should be straight on with the event here. Wow, SCI looks strong, but they were under pressure in the sprint.
They certainly were, and that's obviously not from Salo's perspective, but obviously from Snack bidding it by himself on the exit of turn 4. Clearly went too wide, took too much grass, and that put him at the back of the field. But Salo at least managed to fly the flag for SCI, and they still at least managed to get the sprint win, closely followed by ET8, though, obviously, who had a fantastic sprint format. Arguably their best result all season in terms of finishing position, but it's only for minor points, so they have to convert that now into the main race. Obviously, Tony, our uncle, it was there once again, and he has been the man on form these last 4 races. P3 for him in the sprint race. What can he do here for the main thing, as I'm on board with him through this middle sector, through 7 and 8, of what has been, so far, a very decent lap through turn 19. Too many drivers got too wide here. No such problems there, though, for Tony Reich, who is just, well, a man on fire.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about Grand Track 10 and Tony Reich, because we know he's always been a very quick driver, but he's never been, a driver to be sort of matching with the likes of Silo, etc. But ever since making that switch over to Grand Track 10, the French outfit seems to have really given him a nice home. He's finding so much comfort out there in every race that he is doing at the moment. As he comes across the line right now, obviously lap times will steadily improve, but these are new tyres. 111.1 to start with. Snack beating it immediately with a 110.9. We've got a Ventauri coming across the line, 111.2. And Alpine is going to be coming across the line in a second. It's Silo. He's beaten again by Snack, 111.0.
Indeed, but look at that, 14,000 separating your two drivers. I don't think you can ask for much more than that. I mean, it is only the first runs, it's their banker laps, but it's certainly been a very good start for them. I thought, and I did see correctly, a Ferrari going wide at the final corner, and that was Ivan Eskrig somehow managing to go off at turn 14 there. Maybe he took too much curve inside, threw the car off, or he just went too wide and into the kitty litter. Either way, 123.9 obviously. Yeah, lost the best part of 12 to 12 and a half seconds at least there from Ferrari, who had a decent sprint race and would like to maybe propel himself a bit further up here for the main run. Obviously, as you can see, there's no Aston Martins out on track. They have both retired from qualifying, so they will start at the back so long as Schumi can get a valid lap time in.
Yeah, full confirmation about that situation actually with the guys at Fastest Stay True. So I initially was obviously making the sceptical nature of the situation with their administration getting it quite wrong, because it has been a repeat problem with Fastest Stay True. But actually tonight actually fell out of the hands of the manager. They did field Robin here for this event, but after 5 o'clock they actually got confirmation that his father was actually quite ill. So as a result of that one, he's had to say, look, I can't drive here tonight, lads. I've got to look after my dad. So fair play as far as we're concerned if that situation, but unfortunately penalties do need to be applied. We've got to make sure people are getting within that 5 p.m. rule, and it is a no exceptions kind of scenario. So we do wish Robin and his dad well, and we hope that everything's okay. But that's the reason why Harm is in here tonight alongside Matt Seven. But the FST team will be starting at the back as a result. Well, speaking of which, Ivan Eskrig and White Sheep, they're not really doing particularly well either in this early part of qualifying. White Sheep kept invalidating his lap, so he scored nil points. Ivan Eskrig, I was just monitoring him on the map because obviously I just want to keep an eye out and see when people are coming across the line. And I just noticed coming through the final corner, he was very slow and he just drove off the circuit. So I'm wondering if he had some kind of hardware issue at that point, and that's the reason why he was off circuit, because he didn't lose it and he was like completely out of it, but the car did look a little bit weird on the map.
Yeah, I mean, I briefly saw it. I was very surprised there was no yellow flags for quite a little bit of time, so maybe it was a hardware issue rather than a mistake. Who knows? Either way, he managed to obviously get back onto track. He's got himself back into the pit, so fingers crossed for Ivan that yeah, everything is all good to go and he's back up and running. Only one driver currently out there trying to settle up, and that is Schumi, who yeah, didn't have a great sprint format and will hopefully like to improve here. His teammate Polymasi currently in P11 on a 111.5. Let's see what Schumi can do here as he comes through the final corner now. Burns the rest of that battery he's got left. DRS open. It's a 112 exactly, which is P14. And yes, he's ahead of Ivan Eskrig. Obviously, he had that issue. So technically, really, you could say Schumi, slowest of the drivers who have set a representative time as it currently stands. Steve now for IRT starts his push for his second attempt, invalidated his first run. So you've had an interesting sprint race, it's fair to say. He had the pace at the end, obviously he'd been pitted for the soft tyres quite late on, but had that 10-second penalty which demoted him, but at least it meant his teammate Lucas got a point for IRT, so they got something at least from the sprint format, but he's looking to bounce back here.
Yeah, I think we'll give it might be the slowest lap on the board at the moment from those that have set competitive lap times from Schumi, but you know what, we'll give him the most satisfying lap award with a 112.0 exactly, because it's a very round lap time indeed. One thing I will do is give Salo the most annoying lap in the world with a 111.001, so he's on his way to try and improve of that lap, and if he can find just 1,000, that'd be superb. Thank you. We're keeping an eye on Nico though. He is going to be the next person to be setting some kind of competitive lap in that Williams Mercedes Ventauri. He's heading his way now towards turn 6, 7 and then turn 8 as the Matt Williams looking a little bit uneasy I think on the curb, so just trying to avoid it ever so slightly as he heads his way through 9 and then down to the hairpin of 10.
Yeah, so I was just watching the end of Sleep there as he goes into P10 with an 11.4. But yeah, Nico, 6,000's down now after the first two sectors, so not really finding any pace whatsoever. The car looking a very understeer. Did not want to turn in there. Going into turn 12 through the penultimate corner now of 13, and he decided, yeah, he's obviously lost some time there through turn 12 and decides that, yeah, I've had enough. I'm going to go to the box now and try to go again. See if any of the front runners run laps at the moment. Snack is coming through the final corner now. 15,000ths up on his current professional pole time as it currently stands. Isn't it improvement? It certainly is. It's a 10.5 improvement and a lot of time found there in the final sector for Snack, who extends that gap back out to the top. Tony did improve. He's in P3 on 11 flat of his own now as a Ferrari and Williams coming side by side there down the pit straight going close there. That was interesting, guys. This is only qualifying. It's not the race yet.
Yeah, horrible turn 14 actually from Tony Reich. Had to have a couple of bites at the cherry through there as he felt a bit of understeer as he car bombed out over the curb. Following Silo as he comes across the line, and he does improve by a tenth and a bit, but he goes up to a 1:10.8. Just tucked in again behind Snack, who I've got to say, you know, one hell of a bounce back after that incident in the sprint race to be beating, Silo in this occasion, as Ivan Eskrig has just put himself right up to P3. RWO6 now welcoming themselves into the battle here. ET8 also doing exactly the same thing. So it looks like to me that, suddenly this little party, look at that, Adrian coming across the line, P4 for FRT. This little party between SCI and Tony Reich has just started to be broken into a little bit.
It certainly looks like it has done, yes, and yeah, time's coming in thick and fast here, and yeah, a lot of people in that 111 flat, 111.1 bracket there. It's all to play for as Gavroche now coming towards the start-finish line, joins the 111.1 club, goes into P8. But yeah, the SCR drivers, the only drivers looking that can get into the 110s quite comfortably, and Snack showed that in that one-shot qualifying he had the pace, and he's showing that again here in a one-lap format, but he's got to not make that same mistake again, because if he does, I think there's going to be a few questions asked as to, you know, was it a lack of concentration or something else? Who knows? But he's certainly given the right response here with 8 minutes to go in this qualifying session. I don't think there's anyone out on a lap at the moment. I think everyone's kind of done their lap and is heading back into the pits, apart from Mad Dogs and Shumi, who have just come out to try and go again.
Yes, certainly, as we keep an eye out on how other people are going to sort of keep improving on their laps at the moment, but it won't be initially here, we don't suspect, as people that do set a lap now are going to be well out of sync, but 8 minutes to go. Remember, it might say Q1 up at the top, but it is short qualifying, so this is the battle for pole here, folks. As it stands, Mad Docs there with a 1:11.758, a really big disparity for Grand Track 10 at the moment, with Tony Reich up in P5 and only thousands of a second between him and the third place, while Mad Dog's at the moment about 7/10 slower than his teammate as he comes across the line to get started with his lap here. Let's go on board with him, and we want to get the expert commentary of this Adam Boberts, a recently retired man who might take us on a lap around Spain.
Well, why not? Coming into turn one now, braking just around about where that tarmac starts there for no apparent reason through the first couple of corners for Mad Dogs. Very nicely taken through turn three. Keep it to the right hand side as much as you can. You don't want to drift out too wide until you can straighten the car up just like that and enter into turn four with 400s up through that first sector. We found a bit of time here through the exit of four. Again, don't go too wide, don't go on the grass. Turn five, easily lock the front left brake there quite easily. No problems there for Mad Dogs to get the car turned in, run the car as wide as we can. We cut the exit there, so the entry into this chicane of 7 and 8. Take the sausage curve a little bit, but not too much to unsettle the car. Turn 9, flat out if you can take it with one aero that you're running. Again, Mad Dogs, no issue there. Coming into the heavy braking zone, we're just over a 10th up now, so we're still finding time, but we're still all going to be P16 as it currently stands. In through 11, through 12 now. A difficult corner at the best of times, unsettles the car, and he had to take 2 bites of the cherry there to turn in, and in fact, he's not happy with that. He's got into none, and Mad Dogs, he's going into the pits. He's obviously lost time coming through to the start of that final sector, so he'll have one more attempt with 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, clean but slow, unfortunately, for Mad Dogs, as he elects to just abandon that lap entirely, if we're perfectly honest with you. Other lap times are going to be coming in thick and fast. I'm keeping a firm eye on people around us at the moment that might be on laps. I think Shume will be the next person to set a lap here in the in the McLaren. That's the Bravo Racing Club. His teammate Polymassey up in P11. Remember, the controversial man at the moment is Polymassey, very aggressive driver out on circuit, but a man that has got the vote of approval for certain commentators with having a bucket of pace about him at the moment, but just unfortunately his racecraft not quite up to scratch, but an opportunity on the cards at a circuit like this one. Ashumi's also abandoned his lap as well, so plenty of abandonments out on circuit here, as I think the next person to set a lap, or at least coming across the final corner, will be Jude Frederick. Remember, we didn't see this man in the sprint race, so this is the first time that we're going to be seeing him as he comes across the line and gets himself into the top 10.
He certainly does, and decent effort there from Jude. Our current provisional poleman, Snack, is 7/1000 up again through the middle sector. Is it going to be an improvement for the third time here for Snack? And indeed it is. He finds more time once again in that final sector and goes into the 0.7s now. It's going to annoy you even more. It's a 7.99. It's not an 8.00. Maybe not as much as an actual flat time. Here comes Silo, who improves again and closes that gap to the closest in speed between the two SCI boys. Is now 8/1000 between them. Even Eskrig now coming through the final corner. He's just been dislodged by Ryderdale. Goes into P3. What can even Eskrig do? He takes P3 back. Doesn't go into the 10s, but he's back into P3. Epic Vale now up into P5. Where's he come from? Look at all these drivers in the 111 zeros. They're coming in thick and fast. And there goes Azim now into P4.
Polymassy, wow.
Polymassy! I mean, I'm losing. Can't keep up with this.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable at the moment. There, the gaps that you can see. Obviously, you've got that 8,000s between the two SCI guys, but then look at the difference between Ivan Eskrig all the way down as far as Uncle. The gap is around about, if my math works out right, about 86 thousandths of a second between being on the second row and you being all the way down on the 10th. It's absolutely astonishing, as you would expect, nonetheless, in the Legacy Division. There's your lap times then as it stands so far. Snack looking particularly strong, annoying with a 1:10.799. Couldn't have been an 8, and then you've got an 8:07. Find the thousandths of a second, please, folks, before I have an absolute meltdown at these lap times not being perfectly rounded. And but regardless, though, you know, taking that out of the equation, very good stuff, isn't it, out there at the moment? How competitive it is out on circuit. Like I said, probably less than about 9. Well, it's certainly less than 9 thousandths of a second separating you from being on the second row as far down as the 10th. You know, Tony Rees will be absolutely livid he's in P10.
It certainly will be. I mean, look at that. I mean, Gavroche went into P9 there. He was the last runner of this latest attempt to get his lap in as he goes ahead of Uncle now. But yet, Ivan Eskrig, P3 on 1:11.007 to Jude Frederick is less than 0.2 of a second. And that's separating 3rd to 15th on the grid. That is absolutely mad. And it just shows how close a lot of this field is over a 1-lap pace. It's a shame that you've got that 0.2 gap, obviously, up to the SCI boys out in front. But either way, the rest of the field, it's anyone's game and anyone's guess who's going to be starting, you know, potentially P3 or P10. And Tony Rees has got it all to do here. He, certainly won't be finding himself down in P10, and he's decided he wants to go out on track early and get the clean air to see what he can do. His teammate is already out trying to set a lap time of Mad Dogs. He's currently P18 and the slowest of the drivers to set a lap time. So he's got to find some speed. He's got to try and get himself closer to that midfield if he can. How is he through the first 2 sectors? He's 2/10 up. So, I mean, it's only going to get him ahead of Shumi, though. That's the issue. I see the car complaining for traction on the exit of 10. Shumi actually retired, so he's actually finished here and qualified. So he'll be no better than 17th, and unless Mad Dogs messes up this final corner, which is not going to happen, it's going to be 18th for Shumi. Where does Mad Dogs go, though? In the meantime, it is only 17th.
Yeah, gets himself, though, in at least to around about 0.3 of C at this point, though, worth making note of the situation around us. Snack has decided to leave a little bit earlier than everyone else. He wants to get on with it, so he is going to be leading out in front. As it stands, it's near as damn it a 10th of a second separating the likes of Ivan Eskrig down to White Sheep. So there's 1/10 of a second, well, 1/10 and 1,000th, separating you from being on the second row and being on the 6th row. And it's near as damn it 0.2 of a second between being on the second row and being on the 8th row. It's absolutely tightly packed here tonight, and this is where you've got to try and find every 1,000th of a second, because otherwise you're going to end up finding yourself well down the field. Just tell that to Tony Rees, who's just thought he was on the front row at one point, and now he's on the 5th.
Indeed he is, and he's not had a good first sector either. He's 800s down compared to his previous best, so at the moment it's not going good here for the second GT10 driver of Tony Rees. Through 7 and 8, takes that very nicely though, and it looks like this middle sector at least is looking a lot better than what the first sector did. Runs yeah, pretty much perfect through the exit of 9. DRS open. Have we found some time? We found a 10th of a second, so we are now up on our time. Purple middle sector, take that with a pinch of salt. Through 11 and 12, Ferrari out of the way on the exit. Mercedes in front will get going, will not be in the way at all. This is going to be it for Tony. Where's it going to be of what could have been for him if it wasn't for that very poor first sector? The second 2/3 of the lap has been very good, and in the end, it's P3. It's a good recovery, but it's a case of what could have been, and he's now going to have to wait for everybody else to finish as to where he'll start.
Yeah, the problem was that final corner, if you remember. That's the reason why he lost that 10th of a second. Puts himself back in front of Ivan Eskrig. Snack looking to improve. He's found even more time. 25 thousandths of a second. Puts himself further ahead on pole position. We've got other people looking to improve as well. One of those being actually White Sheep, who's also on a lap as well. I believe we've got a Williams coming across the line imminently. We'll see where that person comes across the line. It is Nico. He goes to P10. We've got a Red Bull of one of the ET8s are also trying to improve. We'll see where he comes in just a second as well as he comes across the line right now. In fact, he just pits, actually. It's Jude Frederick, sorry, the FRT man. Here comes then Silo. It won't improve. He's 24 thousandths down as Rydal comes across the line to go P3 and beats Uncle to by 400ths of a second. Very close indeed. We've got Lucas coming across the line. That's a big lap from IRT, who gets up into P4. Polymassy, BRC, P6. Adrian comes across the line for FRT to go P3 as well. It's hundredths of a second separating every driver on the field. Here's Ivan Eskrig. Epic Vel can only go P11. RW06 can only go P10. Where's Ivan Eskrig? Important lap here for AMR. He stays P9 in this one as well. Gavroche looking to improve. He's up a 10th and a half. Can you believe this is a cracking lap here from the Ventari man? Here he comes across the line. He's lost it all in the final sector. That's so disappointing. I think it'll only be Sieb left. He bails and he's in the pit lane. He's invalidated. Snack has beaten Silo once again. He's bounced back after that crash out in the sprint race. He's on pole. He's made it a front row lockout for SCI as well. But what a performance in that midfield. It's so close out there.
It's so close, and some drivers who are not anywhere near towards the top part of the grid have pulled a lap out of the bag. And it's Adrian for FRT taking P3 from Rydal in P4 behind the Scottish outfit in P1 and P2. Tony in the end starts P6. At least he managed to find some positions at least, but look how tightly packed it is. It wasn't as tight as what it was 5 minutes ago, but it's still extremely close, and there's going to be a few drivers, especially those from the top 10 downwards, who'll be thinking, if only this didn't happen. Especially, do you know what? I think Gavroche as well, a 10th and a half up. What he actually could have been on course for a second row there and lost it all in the final sector. He could be kicking himself for wherever he made that mistake.
Yeah, certainly, and it's worth making note as we do have to take another break in this one to obviously apply further grid penalties to drivers in this event as well. Situation report is very simply put, the gap between all of our competitive lap times, that's everyone within about half a second of each other, and that's everyone from P3 down, I believe, to P16 it was in the end, was 0.324 seconds. That is unbelievably close in this event. Excuse me. We are going to be taking a very quick break before we get on with the main event. Of course, we have to apply our grid penalties for this event as well. Quick reminder, of course, we are on our week break next week as we do need a breather after this amazing 7 rounds of this championship before we take a trip to Belgium for our final stint in the Formula 2 cars. And our drivers here tonight, there are the grid penalties that need to be applied. We've got 5-place grid penalty being applied to Epic Vale and Rayen tonight, and then a 3-place grid penalty being applied to Nico. Of course, FST have not taken part in qualifying. They have to serve a qualifying ban for being completely, for not fielding their correct outfit for many other reasons that we've already gotten into. We'll take a very quick break before we get on with our main event ahead of us. Don't go away. One's in a very good mood. I've just found out that Sheffield Wednesday has managed to hold on to a 0-0 draw at the moment for half-time against Watford. So I'm going to be in a good mood for the rest of this stream now with my friend Adam Roberts for this WR Legacy Division, round number 7 of Season 7 at the Spanish Grand Prix. Thank you very much for your patience as we continue on with our coverage. We have now set up the lobby for this event ahead of us. So, situation report is that the grid penalties have been applied. We've split the RSC guys, and the Ventari man who needed to service replace grid penalty is now in 15th. So RWO6 up in 14th, and then I think it's Nico down in 15th, with then the teammate of RWO6 is down in 16th, 17th place. Sorry, it is. So, Adam, we are going into the main race ahead of us now. SCI have shown that they've got the pace to be just a little bit better than the rest of the field. But I said 0.324 seconds separating third from as far down as 15th it was in the end. Impeccably close racing now.
It certainly was, yeah, from everyone from, like I said, 3rd down to 15th. It was just, you didn't know where to look. Times were coming in thick and fast. It was a case of who was going to be the one to, I guess you could say, be best of the rest. And in the end, it was FRT's Adrian who managed to just outdo Rydal and Lucas at the end there. So good effort for him, for FRT, especially with his teammate of Jude, obviously, who didn't take part in the sprints, qualifying in P12. And yeah, FRT, though, yeah, will like to at least have one driver finish up towards the higher end of the field. But yeah, perfect scenario for SCI, start 1-2 on the grid. ET8, I mean, had a good sprint, obviously, and good finishing positions. They're 4th and 8th for this main race, so not too bad, but could be better, I suppose. But I think, yeah, the biggest ones who are going to be a little bit disappointed more than anything else is going to be AMR, only starting in 9th and 11th. Again, similar to what they did in the sprint format, have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they don't quite have the pace out there at the moment, do AMR. A team, of course, remember, who are actually quite high up in the standings. A quick reminder of the standings, this is pre-sprint race. They're 3rd place overall, and they've always been, you know, in and about the sort of the place, haven't they? So it's very surprising for them to be quite low down, but fair play to Grand Track 10, who were down at the foot of the field and now up into P6. So, again, just goes to show that if you just get a nice little good run on, you'll find yourself right back in there. And Grand Track 10, who I think a lot of us put down the field as potentially being in P9, P10, didn't see that Tony Reish entry, as obviously shown and flex his muscles, and he's looking particularly strong here tonight, albeit because of how close it is out there at the moment, a little bit out of position.
Indeed, yes, and well, Tony actually almost nearly qualified in the midfield. Obviously, before those final runs, he was in P10, managed to get to P6 in the end. So, not too bad, at least on his part. His teammate, though, down in of Mad Dog starts P17, so he has some work to do. But yeah, GT10 though have been on a good run. You know, won 3 out of the last 4 races. Would maybe like to try and go for a 4th, but yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them if they can do that. Especially they've got, you know, Tony's got some quick drivers in front of him to pass, and one team in particular who would like to continue their good sprint format here into the main race, and that is obviously ET8. So yeah, a lot of 33 laps to come here, Jota. A lot to look forward to. It looks like it's going to be dry, which is a shame because it was raining earlier.
Yeah, it was, and I think we were saying, weren't we, how fuming we were that we didn't have that particular lobby, as are the fuming nature of the Tottenham Hotspur fans at the moment as well. I've just seen JR Gaming's comment in the chat, could be where she could be a Spurs fan. Yeah, our team suffering in the lowly leagues of the negative points in the Championship without an owner and in administration. But you know what, could be where she could be Tottenham fan as well. Bring back Cabinito Carboni as well, says Vardonator. Absolutely agreed with that. What a boot he had on him as well. So we are getting going with this main race ahead of us in the round 7 of season 7 of WR Legacy Division. We're about halfway there now. It's been an absolutely monstrous season. Would love to know, whilst we're racing here tonight, has anyone got any highlights of this particular season? Because, you know, you look at how intense this season has been. You know, 6 rounds of, you know, completely different opportunities, shall we say, around the field. So I'd be interested to hear if anyone got any sort of specific highlights of this season. For me, I want to go all the way back to Monaco. Those F2 cars were fantastic to watch.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm inclined to agree with you, actually. Yeah, watching those F2 cars and yeah, drivers getting used to a completely different format, different power, different aero, and yeah, it certainly wasn't easy for them at the best of times. But yeah, no, so I'd probably agree with you there. But I also do love the no hard tyre format. I did also enjoy actually the Zandvoort reverse grid. That was also a you know, a reverse championship grid was also very good to watch as the drivers out on track. We have 5 lights for round 7.
Yeah, here they go then with the drivers getting ready for round number 7. No more waiting. Let's go racing then here in Barcelona. Snack is going to do a really good job here to try and work with Silo to defend from Adrian. Now it actually make it Rydadal. Rydadal has had an absolutely blistering start for ETA, who wants to try and get the jump on potentially one, maybe two of the drivers around the outside. He'll have to go though, Will Rydadal. He's definitely getting his car squeezed in there as he gets side by side with the likes of Silo. It's not going to be particularly comfortable as Lucas has tried to commit to a ghosted overtake. You're not going to work there, Sunshine. Rydadal looks like he's got this move done, but he's going to have to hold around the outside of turn number 5. Is Snack going to make the same mistake? No, he will not. He's learned his mistake from there at turn 5. He maintains the lead of this race. Rydadal not able to hold on. He's now defending from Adrian, who wanted to get a podium here, do FRT to bounce back after what has been a relatively poor form for the team represented in the Racing Bulls, but happy to hold on to P4. Lucas stays in P5. Uncle Tony Reich still in P6.
He did, yes, but he is starting on the hard compounded tyre there, so he's going for a different strategy in comparison to obviously everybody else who's around him. Only 4 of the drivers are doing that as he tries to send it down the inside into turn 10 there, trying to catch Lucas off guard, who in the end just about hung on there. But yeah, Silo and Rydadal battling for that entire first sector and a little bit more, and in the end Silo just about held on to that P2, but Rydadal was certainly giving him a good run for his money. Everybody at least pointing in the right direction coming to the end of the first lap. It's Snack who leads the way. He's learned from his mistake. Can he do it for 32 more laps? We shall wait and see. There's action towards the back of the grid. That is Harmon, who's trying to go for a move on Mad Dogs, who's now going to get boxed in by Steve. We're just going to try and pull it out. We're going 3 wide into turn 1 here, and Mad Dogs gets the move done on Steve. Harmon trying to follow him through. Doesn't quite get it done, but we got 3 wide there bravely. And thankfully, the Aston Martin thought wise and backed out of it.
Yeah, the FRT man, Jude Frederick, also trying to race with the medium tyre runner of Nico Ventari. Look at that. He's managed to find some really good front end grip on those hard tyres regardless of Jude Frederick. He's going to have to go around the outside of 6, though, if he wants to get this one done. He'll find the car will wash out wide and he'll lose the position regardless against Nico. Looking very sharp at the moment is the FRT man. Just a shame of his current position, P14 at the moment for him. RWO6 up to P12, of course, serving his 5-place grid penalty for the RSC team. Epic Vale not able to capitalise on their performance on their position at the moment anyway, because he's still down in P15. RWO6 needs to start up to P12 at the moment as he continues to chase down those on the medium tyres. Uncle, though, starting to lose a little bit of ground, I think, to the IRT man of Lucas, who came out of nowhere with a blisteringly quick lap time, didn't he, the IRT man around here, as he looks like he's going to come across line. Is he going to set purple? No, he won't, but he's been ultimately a very quick runner up in P5 as he tries to shake down that 1 second barrier if he can against Tony Reich in P6.
He did, yeah, certainly tried that, obviously, especially with Tony on those hard compounded tyres as well, but he's doing a decent job as it currently stands. But that's what you expect from a driver as high as Tony's calibre. As I said, you've only got 5 drivers on the hard tyres though, and Tony being the highest place in P6 at the moment. You can mention RW6 had a good start there, and he is one of those drivers on the hard tyres. Seba's dropped 6 positions, so I'm not too sure what happened to him on those first few corners on the opening lap, but RW6 looking very racy at the moment, and certainly he's going to need to. The team currently sitting quite high up in the standings, and will obviously both of their drivers having 5-place grid penalties will want to try and recover from this. Epic Vale has stayed in P15, but at least RW6 is moving forward and not backwards, as the field's still all within 1 second of each other. We can see where some of the gaps are appearing between certain people in particular, and White Sheep at the moment seems to be the one struggling the most, and even though he's on those medium tyres.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, that is why I've just realised he's got front wing damage. He's missing his front right end plate. That would explain it.
Yeah, so obviously getting your front wing damage around here, a circuit where you've got your mixture of all your slow, medium, and high speed corners. Not having a piece of your front wing is so critical as well. So it's a bit disappointing stuff for him. We're still following Uncle at the moment as well. He's managing to find around about a half-second gap between himself and Azim, as well as him and Lucas. So even Stevens at the moment between all of those drivers in that midfield at the moment. Snack and Silo, though, are in their prime positions. The Alpine Renaults, as we expect them to be, can now manage the race pace of everyone around them at the moment. Overtaking notoriously difficult with this generation of Formula 1 car. Might be fixed for the 26 regulations, but certainly for 25, DRS trains are where it's probably going to end up being at, so I suspect this is going to be one of those slower burner races.
I would highly agree with you on that. But yes, obviously certain drivers to look out for. Obviously Tony will be towards the end of the race, where he will be on those medium tyres. See what sort of pace he can bring to the table when everybody else is going to be on those hards. Lap 4 out of 33. SCI still lead the way. It's Snack ahead of Silo, and they've just been comfortable at the front end. But not really having to push too hard at the moment, and everyone just really kind of just, you know, staying in behind. That gap now up to 2.3 seconds between Polymassy and P10 to the damaged front wing of White Sheep, who you can tell is just struggling now, and he's now going to try and play defensive. Goes to the middle of the track to try and defend from RW06, but he burns that battery, has the DRS, and just says thank you very much, I'll have a piece of that, as Nico there trying to send it down the inside to catch White Sheep off guard, but in the end doesn't manage to get the move done. But that's RW06 now up to P11, but he's got 2.6 second gap now in front of him. That's a tall order to try and close in, as White Sheep defending very aggressively from Nico. He's kind of, in some respect, trying to do his teammate job here.
Oh, a bit worried about hooking there. Is he going to go for the dive anyway? He will look for the dive going into 6. Side by side they will go. White Sheep will lose another position. I suspect he was going to try and fight it, but there's a risk of tyre hooking when you're off camber through there, and he'll lose another position. The AMR man really struggling out there. AMR generally have been well off the pace here at their home Grand Prix as well. Remember, they are the Spanish outfit, so it's very surprising that the Spanish Grand Prix circuit is proving to be much of a challenge to them here. Dive down the inside does Epic Veil. It's a half-hearted move, but the hard tyres clearly able to just get that little bit of grip as he continues side by side as they go through, and they collide into the wall, collide into the tyres rather, sorry, and that is probably going to be 50-50 to say the least. We'll let the stewards decide on that one though, as he will reconcile his thoughts and put himself back into fruition. So as it stands, the hard tyre runner now relegated down to P18, and the second place team of RSC having a really mixed bag of a race at the moment, with RWO6 already up to 11th.
Oh wow, we're dead. Mad Dogs there's just sent it down the inside. He tried to defend from Epic Fail, and as a result had to pull over to the right to try and get a move done on the Aston Martin, and there was almost tears there for the pair of them, as White Sheep now loses out to Shumi, who now goes into P14, so a good recovery at the moment for Shumi for BRC as it currently stands. But yeah, that was almost another incident, and yeah, everyone just trying to get ahead of this Ferrari, who is clearly struggling with that damage. And well, he's at the same time, White Sheep is not really taking any prisoners at the same time, and yet the top 10 all is calm in the front half of the field, and it's everywhere else that you can see is where it's all happening. Here comes Harmon now on the outside in towards turn 10. He's going to outbrake the Ferrari there. He gets the car stopped, and round the outside he's going to have the traction there. It's a great move there from Harmon to get ahead of White Sheep, and that's him up to P15 now. Now it's Mad Dog's turn, and surely he's going to have a good run down the DRS pit straight.
Yeah, I was just re-watching that incident as well there. I could see there was a little bit of tyre banging, perhaps a tiniest little bit of tyre hooking, which caused Epic Veil to spin out a little bit, but he's now down relegated in P18 as a result of that one. Situation reporters, we've got Shumi and Jude Frederick getting into their own little scrap here for P13. Great move then from Shumi in the end. The BRC man now up to P13. It's a double points finish for BRC as it stands, with Polymassy up to P10, but he's got RWO6, who's racing very well, but about 3 and a bit seconds behind. When these mediums start to fall off, RWO6's race will begin to form, as will the man up in P6, GT10 Uncle. He stayed within touching distance, to be fair to him, of those around him on on a harder compound of tyre. My question is when he does leave the hard and go to a medium, how quick is this man going to be?
I think the simple answer is he's going to be lightning quick, but he's going to have to get some moves done, because I think it's quite likely that he might find himself potentially down in P10. You know, with there being no safety cars or anything like that behind the likes of Azim, Ivanescu, Gavroche and Polymassy. Again, that's all considering that if everything goes smoothly for all of these drivers, which is easier said than done. Lap 8 now out of 33, almost a third of the way into this race. In fact, we're now a quarter of the way into this race pretty much. And again, it's still fairly quiet out the front, but the gaps are starting to open up a little bit. Azim struggling maybe to try and keep within 8 tenths of Uncle in front of him. But yeah, I think now the hard tyre especially of Uncle at least, is the tyre to be on at this moment. These mediums are now going to start to fall off a little bit. They're going to want to get these to at least, lap 11, 12, 13, and then take the hard tyres to the end of the race. So yeah, Uncle gonna try and save that battery, as he is actually doing, and he's still comfortable. He's not been under any threat, and he's been quite conservative, I think, at the same time.
Yeah, just having a quick look then as we are on lap 8 of 33 in this race, as people just sort of finding their mojo here. Closest Uncle's been to Lucas in quite a while, but no overtake is expected here. As we go back to the question of the day, folks, is what's your favourite race, your favourite moment as being in of the WOR Legacy Division Season 7? I mentioned briefly the Monaco Grand Prix, specifically the F2 races were quite a fun treat for us all, something a little bit different. Tsunami agrees that Monaco was something of a highlight as well in the F2 cars, especially a circuit where racing is known to be quite difficult. It's always a pleasure to see racing actually occurring at a circuit like that one, because it's a nice little surprise. Keeping an eye out on Uncle. Is he going to go for it on this occasion? No, he won't. Other further points as well. Phil in the chat. Yeah, F2 Monaco. Another excited fellow for that particular run.
Certainly is. I think it seems to be the case that, yeah, people are really enjoying it. I did enjoy the Monaco race, as Big Vale now gets the move done on White Sheep, goes into P16, but taken perhaps a little bit longer as to what he would have liked. But he's at least managed to gain some places back since the contact that the two of them made a few laps ago. But at the moment, that seems to be the only sort of battle out on track, because everyone else just can't seem to make any move or any impression on the driver in front. RWO6 is actually still losing time to the pace being set by Snack out in front. That gap now up to 3.7 behind Paulie Massey. Unfortunately for the RWO6, is it a case of this is the best it's going to be for him, and it could only be P11, but still a long way to go, and still anything can happen, so he might have to hope for an incident of some form to try and maybe, kickstart his race off again. Nico P12, again, nothing really happening. Let's see how close Tony is going to be to the back of that Kick Sauber in front of him. Is he going to get close enough to try and make a little move into turn one? The answer is no. In fact, anyone who's close enough was Adrian on to ride it out, but even then, none of these drivers are interested towards the front. They just want to get through this first stint, get onto the hard tyres, unless your name is Tony, and then the fireworks may start. Like you said, the sprint race, it might be a bit of a slow burner, this, everyone, so come back in about 20 laps time and it'll certainly start to heat up.
Yeah, just keeping a firm eye on the back of the field at the moment. Actually, see White Sheep and Mad Dog's getting into a bit of a strong battle, as Mad Dog's made a mistake, I think, at turn 13, so he's now relegated down to P19 as Matt 7, the FST man, are looking to try and get off of the foot of the field. As we've got David in the chat saying, if someone enjoyed that F2 race, they've got to be studied. But plenty of other people enjoyed that one, David. But let us know what you thought. What's your highlight of this particular season, my friend, as well? Pretty good stuff as well, as we've got Liam in the chat saying AMR for the championship. No, not quite now. Not at the moment, anyway.
I mean, sillier things have happened. There's still half a season to go. It could still happen, but certainly not in this race anyway. Not at the present moment. And there's going to have to be some big swings and big changes for that potentially to happen. But they are having a decent season though, as it currently stands, and I think they can be quite proud at the moment. But they have to keep this form going, or at least improve upon this race as it currently stands. But there is still a long way to go in this. Again, nothing happening in the top 10, and RW6 is again still losing time, which is unfortunate. If anything, actually, Nico's closing in on him by a couple of tenths, so maybe I was wrong about the medium tyres, and maybe there is still some pace in them.
Still some pace happening down at the foot of the field for P18. The battle for P18 between Mad Dogs, White Sheep and Matt, as Matt still can't make any inroads on the front two drivers. It looks like Mad Dogs has gone mental with the acceleration pedal, and Mad Dog, if you will, with that acceleration pedal, as he now starts to try and extend the gap against White Sheep, who's now down to P19. AMR's race going from bad to worse at the moment with him. What is happening for the Spanish outfit? And the Spanish teams at the Spanish Grand Prix as well. ETA, they had a semi-decent run in the sprint race, but they're now split 3 and 7 at the moment with Azim. Now, of course, we're starting to see people coming in, as to be expected. Snack now in. Ryderdal is in. We've got Adrian also in. Hard Tyres going to be going on for them. Uncle promoted to P3, but he'll extend his stint, of course, on the hard tyre. So situation report as it stands, as we start to see the first pit stops coming in, people will start to debate about that undercut. Not very powerful around here. They could do that extra lap and have the tyre delta if they want to.
Indeed they could. The only difference that there's going to be is a nice bit of lag there as White Sheep speeds into the pit lane. So not only has he got a front wing to change, he's got 10 seconds to take if there is going to be another stop for him. So White Sheep's race has just gone from bad to worse, unfortunately. But I think there might be a little bit more up with these brand new hard tyres compared to 11 lap old mediums. I'll see if I am proven right or wrong in that. By Silo by the time he pits, considering how close he was to his teammate. By the time he made a pit stop, Silo actually burning that battery quite a bit just to see if he can take the net race lead away from his teammate, who's got 1.2 seconds over Ryderdale, but Snack already on the back of the drivers towards the back of the field, and that the first driver he's got to overtake is Mad Dogs, who will certainly now try and do a job as best as he can to defend, to help out his teammate who's in P3 on those hard tyres, as the two leaders now go into the pits.
Yeah, Lucas actually hitting the pit entry wall as he was going so fast into there to try and maximise that one. This is now Uncle's race to lose in terms of strategy. He's got to try and maximise now this completely fresh and clean air on these hard tyres as much as he can, in the hope that the tyre delta is not going to be too significant, but the tyre degradation is pretty strong around here. Seb and Silo getting into a little bit of a mixed bag switch there. I think, pardon me, it was rather the Mad Dogs actually, with Snack, as Silo has just managed to get in front of Snack, so the undercut working just a little bit there. You can see using his overtake to use as much of his tyres. It looks like we've got someone getting into a little bit of an incident, and that one I think was Lucas in this one. A man looking for, you know, a really good undercut. Well, he didn't really get a good exit out of the pit lane as a result.
I didn't catch the whole of it, but I think there was contact between him and, I want to say, maybe, and apologies if I am making this up and being wrong, but with him and Adrian potentially. But we'll wait and see on that if that was indeed the case. But yeah, Lucas, who was running a net P5, and he's now lost all that time and all those positions. He's now behind Polly Massey, as here comes Adrian now down the inside of Mad Dogs into turn 10, and just fresh tyres much later in the brakes. Easy done, like taking candy from a baby. But yeah, Snack being held up by Mad Dogs has meant that his teammate Cylon now has taken, has got the move done on him, and he didn't even really have to do anything either. So yeah, not ideal for Snack, but at least it's still, the SCI boys are still running together. Ryderdale's still in behind them. Shumi now into the box. 3 drivers, I'm sorry, well 4 if you include Mad Dogs, still out on those mediums, taking these tyres a long way. And I suppose if you're Azim and you're still going to get dragged along by Tony, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, trying to commit to the overcut, I think, a little bit here now. Azim, his teammates down at the moment in P11 on 2-lap old hard tyres. As we're watching people continue on this form here, as we've got a little bit further lull in this one, we go back to our question of the day. Well, you know, what's your highlight of the Season 7 tournament of WOR Legacy Division? David has actually got back to us on this one here, Adam, and his exact words were, "Quantum driving into the back of Silo at Monza was my highlight."
I do remember that one. I was here for that race.
Yes.
Yeah, that was. If that's your highlight, then I'd like to know what was the worst point within all of that. As Azim now finally goes into the box, his mediums have just given up the ghost. Even Eskrik, interestingly, has stayed out, and I guess he's doing that because he's got the DRS down the pit straight. So I suppose if you can get a few tenths of a second, then why not? But yeah, interesting one there from David. A man of interesting choices, I think it's fair to say, and that's just another one to the list. But, you know, fair enough, I suppose. If that's what you want to go with, that's what it's going to be. Polly Massey sets the fastest lap of the race as he tries to close in on the train in front. And I tell you what, Azim, by staying out, has actually now found himself behind the BRC man, and he's lost about, I want to say, 2 or 3 places as a result. As unfortunately we've lost Shumi now. He's retired in the pit lane. So our first retirement of the race, down to 19 runners and riders.
Yeah, a little bit of a mistake there from the Ferrari of White Sheep as well, going out at the final corner racing with Mad Dogs losing a position to Polly Massey, now down to P14. Harm made a little bit of a mistake as well. His 2,000 and odd subscribers on YouTube will be a bit disappointed to hear that he took a trip in the gravel trap at turn 3, I believe it was. Turn 1 or turn 3, I think it was, a little bit earlier on in this race. So he's down down in P17. Lap 15 of 33. We've got that yellow flag waving for Shumi, who's retired in the pit lane. No expectation of any safety car as a result of that one. So we'll continue on with the race. As it stands so far, though, even Eskrig still holding on these medium tyres at the moment, looking to get a significant tyre delta. RWO6 also staying out, but Nico has had enough. He's now in for Ventari's. Epic Veil will now go up to P5 on these 15-lap-old hard tyres. Remember, RWO6 and Epic Veil are both started on these hard tyres, so this is not a representative position for them. They will have to pit again as Gavroche goes even faster for Ventari at the moment. He's flying out there. 1.9 seconds the gap, but the nearest battle at the moment is this little battle between Seeb, Snack and Silo. Now, Seeb needs to make his pit stop, of course, so I don't expect this one to be held or a bit too aggressively held, to be honest with you. As he goes for that dive down the inside line, there's significantly more grip, of course, on 3-lap-old hards versus 15-lap-old hards, and Silo gets that done as he now puts himself back into the position of prospective P2 as it stands. He did lose the position to Snack, though.
Yeah, perhaps a little bit of working together for the pair of them, and obviously Snack wanting to, yes, get that potential net race lead back as he had done for the entirety of that first stint. But what it has done, it means, is now SDI do have a driver in between them and Ryderdal, who's in P9 at the moment. The gaps have started to appear as Ivan Eskrig finally goes into the pits. 16 laps he'll have done on those medium tyres, and fair play to him for getting them that far. But yeah, he's going to have the pace as the stint goes on, but he's probably going to have lost a hell of a lot of time, especially considering that Azima's done, because he's behind Paul and Massey. But let's see where he comes out in amongst all of this. Top 4 still need to pit, obviously. They were the ones who started on the hard tyres. Uncle with an 8-second gap over RWO6. Then you've got Epic Veil, his teammate Jude Freg. Then you've got the net race leader of Stack in P5 from his teammate Silo. Ryderdal now, though, getting very close to the back of C, but he's not going to be close enough, I don't think, into turn 4. The answer is no. So they kick Sauber. Still a bit of a roadblock. It is helping the 2 Alpines in front. It gets a bit squirrely, though, on the exit. Pulls over to the racing line. This is Ryderdal's chance down the inside into the hairpin. And that's easy done there for the ET8 man. He can now try and set it out. So closing back up to the 2 in front.
Yeah, Red Bull going through turn 6 and making an overtake. Oh my goodness me, is uncharacteristic, because last time we saw that one, we saw Max Verstappen crash into the side of George Russell. Great move from Adrian in the end, really leaving it to the last second through turn 7 to try and get the switch back. Gets the move done anyway and gets his sights back on to getting close to Ryderdal as he possibly can. 2 seconds a gap between Snack and Jude Frederick, by the way. The front 4 yet to make the pit stop, as rightfully pointed out by my co-commentator Bobberts here tonight. Jamie Ayres in the chat saying, FRT at Austria was my highlight so far. I think that was FRT's performance was, if I remember rightly, 8th and 18th, 12th and 19th in the fours event for that one, which is not particularly a highlight, but fair enough, as we've got other people in there as well. As David has finally come back to us, the worst highlight, the low light, if you will, has to be Quantum getting a P2. All right, wind it in a bit, mate.
I think there's a bit of gamesmanship and a bit of fun between the pair of them. I know they don't take it seriously, you know, they are good mates in the end. So yeah, but yeah, you know, it was actually, to be fair though, it was good to see Quantum get a P2 after what has been a bit of a difficult time for the Brit, but you know, hopefully, well, for his sake, he took that as a bit of confidence and to try and yeah, boost his morale, I guess you could say. Either way, back to the action. Snack is now 1 second off the back of Jude Frederick. Does not have the DRS on this occasion, but with the extra grip that he'll have through this final sector, should get it going down the pit straight. Won't be close enough to make a move, but at least what it might do is be able to save just a tiny little bit of battery if he wanted to. But at the same time, they'll want to get a move done as quickly as possible, just to you know, try and split up the 2 of them to the likes of Ryderdal and Adrian. And it seems that it's these 4 who are pulling away from the rest of the field. Gavroche, with his slightly earlier stop, has actually gained from all this, and he's actually, you could say, a net P5.
Yeah, I think Azim also in a bit of a weird position, up in P12 at the moment, or down in P12. He'll obviously get up to P8 overall after everyone makes their pit stops, but he's got significantly fresher tyres than those around him. Some people with actually double the wear of Azim at the moment, who can just sort of manage his race pace, and whether or not he's got enough time though to make up those losses of committing to the overcut is another question. Jude Frederick now getting overtaken in the end by Snack. This should be easy pickings for Silo. at some point as well, I would suspect, going into the hairpin. We'll see as he heads his way up to turn number 9. Here it is, going through the right-hander. That grip, pretty apparent, to be fair, for the Alpine Renault. And then going into turn 10, the hairpin should be pretty clear-cut. Goes down that inside line, and Jude Frederick really not battling that hard at all on these older hard tyres. Expectations is that FRT should be pitting their man imminently, as his uncle finally making his pit stop, the first of the front 5, for a front 3 rather now, to make a pit stop off of the hard tyres. He'll move over to a medium, but how much time is he going to lose, and how much time does he need to gain back if he wants to be competitive?
It's going to be the question on everybody's mind, as there goes Snack with the mood, and Silo using all that battery as he can so he can stick with his teammate, gets ahead of Epic Vale, and once again the SCI boys have got a car in between them and Ryderdal in behind, so he'll want to get that move done as quickly as he can. In the end, Uncle actually comes out in a little bit of clean air in P12. I say that he's got 7 seconds behind to Nico Castronovo, but either way, it's P12. Obviously 2 drivers in front of him, still yet to pay. That is a Mercedes, and that is RWO6 off the track, and indeed it is. What has happened to RWO6? Is there a puncture, or is it a mistake? I can't see. It will not let me change the camera. Now it has
a mistake. He doesn't have a puncture.
It was a mistake.
He doesn't have a puncture at all. So on lap 19 on those hard tyres, so the grip is obviously starting to fall off. But I don't believe at the moment that Mercedes man has got any comfort in his tyres, and I would expect that surely a pit stop is going to be imminently. But I'm wondering if they're now going to say, actually, these tyres have completely fallen off. You've now fallen behind your teammate. We're going to pit him first instead.
Yeah, I'd probably be inclined to agree with you potentially as well, but yeah, weird one, because he was not under threat from anybody, and in fact he actually now goes into the box, so that'll be RW6 onto the mediums. But what was been a decent race from him, maybe lacked a little bit of top end pace, but was holding his own. But yeah, that one mistake, and that is race is pretty much done and dusted, as Adrian and Ryderdal have got ahead of Epic Vale. But look at that, they are 1.4 seconds now off the back of Silo. And SCI have done what they needed to do. They have split the drivers, as in from those behind them, and they've pulled away.
Yeah, critical part of this race now for Ryderdal. He needs to get back within that 1 second within this lap. Otherwise, he's going to find himself actually in real trouble to hold on to P3. Late breaker from Uncle on this one. Tony Reich has decided he can't wait any longer. He hasn't got a lot of laps left, 12 of them to be exact, as he tries to get some inroads done. He's decided he's had enough of waiting. He gets the move done on Ivan Eskrig and relegates the Spanish outfit in the home Grand Prix down to P11 as he'll continue to chase down Lucas. The grip will be substantial as he goes through to turn 10. He doesn't even get to turn 10 before he gets that move done, and he's already up to P9.
It's 2 positions in a matter of a few corners there from Tony, and he does need to get these moves done. Obviously, he's got 3 drivers now in front of him. Get a move done on as quickly as possible. Is Epic Vale pitting? Indeed he is. That's 1 less driver to have to overtake, and it was the final driver to make a pit stop in this race. So that's Uncle up to P8, but he's got a lot of time to find. He set the fastest lap of the race, but now he's in this DRS trade where people are just going to be swat wobbling. Polly Massey gets the move done on Gav Roche there. He goes up into P5 now. Oh, that's it. That was in tandem there. We won't do that ever again. But yeah, that was Tony getting late on the brakes, but that's just the grip difference and being having the confidence to brake so much later as he goes on the inside of Azim there through turn 3, and that's another position gain. Is he now going to dive in down the inside of Gavroche into the hairpin? Gavroche wise to that though, blocks the inside line, but look at the grip for Tony round the outside. He's going to have the traction as well coming into 7 and 8, and he gets another overtake done. This is great racing here. Yeah,
he's passing everyone like it's boring at the moment. There's Tony Reich with those medium tyres working an absolute treat in that one as well, and we saw a couple of people making a mistake. Another event at Brazil last time, our ETA ended up getting involved in a horrible collision for the exact same reason that we saw with Uncle. He just missed timing how early these people on the hard tyres have got to brake when you've got such a fresh tyre that's significantly softer than the tyre that you've got around you. So he needs to just maintain that one and avoid getting into any kind of collision, because that wing will now be ready for some kind of damage. Seba's retired from this race, by the way, folks. Yellow flag's waving in the first sector, so no overtaking can be done. So he has to get this one done now, does Uncle, and that's exactly what he does before he enters the yellow flag zone. So no issue in terms of a penalty or the game telling him to give the position back. He's now up to P5 with 2.5 seconds and clean air. He has an opportunity potentially on the cars to get past and up towards the other FRT man of Adrian.
Indeed, who in turn at the same time is just sticking to the back of Ryderdale for what is the final step on the podium as it currently stands with 10.5 laps to go. But Ryderdale just doesn't have the pace of the front two of Snack and Silo. That gap has increased by over a second in the last few laps as even Eskrig sends it down the inside of Lucas. That's the offset of hard tyres, even if it's just 4 laps, and at least one Ferrari driver is getting some moves done here, and it is Ivan Eskrig. He's now up to P9, and he actually has the freshest of the hard tyre runners, so keep an eye on him as the race comes to its conclusion with the extra bit of pace and grip that he'll have.
Matteo in the chat saying I could just call him a bottle. I didn't specifically say you, my friend, all right? Just pointing that one out from that other event that happened the other day.
He was thinking it, he just didn't want to say it.
He just didn't want to say it in this one as well. Fair enough though, Matteo. Apologies that you've been butthurt by that. I promise you I'd try not to be offensive for you there, buddy. I'm keeping an eye out on the situation with Adrian, who's starting to realise he needs to make some inroads. He gets the move done on Ryderdale. He's now up to P3. He knows now he has to start pushing because Uncle is flying. Tony Reich has got both of the cars in his sight already with 3.5 tenths. He's found 2 seconds on the last lap versus those in front of him. He don't think he's going to get stuck in a DRS train for very long though, because the grip is substantial at the moment on these medium tyres. Is he going to look for the dive on Ryderdale? Is he going to relegate another Spanish team at the Spanish outfit? No, Ryderdale cutting in early actually to try and avoid any kind of respective overtake from Uncle. He's going to be looking for it, I think, at the turn 10 hairpin.
He's going to try to. The only thing he doesn't have, though, is the battery compared to the two in front of him, especially Adrian. He's got twice the battery compared to what Tony has. But look at the grip through turn 9 there. A little bit of a wobble, though, on the exit. That might actually hurt his chances for a move down the inside.
Whoa.
And indeed, Ryderdale just a little bit of a feint to the inside there. But Ryderdale holding his own. Didn't have to go for a block in the end. But I think the Red Bull here for ET8 is going to have to get a move done on Adrian so he doesn't try get overtaken himself by the Haas behind him coming through the final corner now. And Tony dropped off a little bit because he was saving that battery. Gets a good run through the final corner, but he's not close enough, and now he's coming up towards drivers who've got a bit more pace in comparison to those behind him. Here comes Ryderdale with a move down the inside. He's Tony going to try and send it down the inside in turn 1. He cut the corner there a little bit naughty actually. I think he's somehow got away with that. But it looked to me like Tony cut the first corner to get the move done there, and Adrian, that's one potentially for some people to look at. But either way, he's got up to P4 for now. Thoughts, Jota?
Well, I don't know. We caught it on board and off board at the same time. But to me, upon entry, it looked like he did cut in quite early. Did Uncle, and if he did do that and he got a warning for it, he certainly did end up cutting the corner, and he might end up in trouble with the stewards for that one. I'll let the people watching tonight be the stewards of this one. What are people's thoughts on that one? Let us know in the chat. Lap 25 of 33. I was about to say, if this was lap 30, I'd say actually advantage Adrian and Ryderdale because they could work together and defend from the medium tyre runner, but because we've got so many laps left in this race, they've got to think about racing each other as well in this scenario. So opportunity is still on the cards for Uncle to get on the podium, but he's going to have to try and cover off a prospective penalty. If he did cut that corner at turn 1, it would have been very minuscule if he did manage to retain it. Using overtake, using DRS, he'll now get the overtake done on Ryderdale. No issue. He's now up to P3 on the alternate strategy. However, he's now got to earn enough of a gap to cover off any potential prospective penalty from the WOR stewards.
Indeed he will, and yeah, well, I've had a look at the race director. I'm not going to give anything away for obvious reasons. I want to keep it a secret. But yeah, that'll certainly be one to watch out for. But what this has done is they've actually lost a bit of time to Paulie Massey, who's been leading the next train of 4 drivers. That is himself, Gavroche, Azim, and then even Eskrig. Lucas has actually dropped off the back here quite considerably, quite quickly. Whether he's made a mistake or not, I'm not sure. The rear of his car not looking too happy there. And now Nico Castronova closing in on the back of him as a result. But let's see what Tony can do now. 3.5 seconds is the gap to him and Silo out in front. The SEO boys have been cruising for the second half of this stint near enough, just been doing their own thing. But what can Tony do? Has he got some tyre life left in these mediums to try and close in on the 2 Alpines in front of him? He's found a couple of tens in this final sector, so you would say the answer is yes to that. And off that last lap, he was still over 1.2 seconds quicker than our two leaders.
Nat Morgan in the chat as well. Good evening to yourself. I don't know, Tony's been pushing very hard on these tyres, which I think sort of goes hand in hand with your comment there, to be fair, because he has been pushing very hard on these medium tyres to get himself back into this position. The question is now, with the amount of laps that we've actually got left in this race, which is 5.5, has he actually burnt up those tyres? Because by the time he gets to around about lap sort of 13 with those medium tyres towards the end of this race, are those tyres actually going to be so worn that actually any time that he tries to earn at this point in the race, obviously trying to counteract any potential penalties, could he be at risk of potentially losing that time back and falling into another battle with Radadal and Adrian?
I mean, you could say it's possible. However, based off this lap, the answer to that is a resounding no. He's now pulled 2 seconds clear of Radadal, who's just lost well over a second in this lap. So it just shows that, yes, even at this stage of the race, that these 7-lap-old medium tyres are much better than 15-lap-old hards. He's gained about 6/10 almost this lap on the two SCI boys out in front. Silo, is he going to go for a move here on Stack? Indeed he is. So is that team tactics? Is this now trying to propel each other along to try and save some battery for the end of this race? Silo has decided he wants to lead this race as Adrian now goes into P4. Easy move there on the 88 Red Bull there of Radadal. But yeah, a bit of well, some tactics now involved here from SCI, because they've got to make sure that they do not get caught.
Just keeping an eye on the very strong battle happening at the moment between Ivan Eskrig and Azim here. It's the two teams from Spain racing at Spain, currently in Spain without, well, the S is silent at the moment, as Ivan Eskrig really struggling out there as well with P9, and White Sheep down in P17 with a time penalty to his name as well, battling at the foot of the field with Fastest Stay True's ICS Matt. PGR Epic Vale, that's the RSC man racing with FRT's Drew Frederick, currently down in P12 and P13. I'm a little bit at discomfort at the moment with AMR, because we're a team currently P3 in the standings at their home Grand Prix, going into the week break with this kind of pace. Is that setting up a little bit of a worrisome 7 rounds after the week break?
You'd hope not for their case, but I think at this rate they just want to get this race over and done with. And even though Ivan's got the tyre offset to the cars in front of him, they just can't do anything because, Polymassi's pace is very good. And do you know what? I've just noticed here, he's now only 1.3 seconds off Adrian and Radadal. Polymassi's pace is very, very good. Now, I think I've been one person, I've not been too critical of his aggressive nature. I've questioned it a couple of times, but his pace is certainly improved since, last season especially. And he's now closing in on what is a possible battle for P4 here.
Yeah, I believe, if I remember rightly, I believe it was Laurent that said that he really appreciated Polymass's pace, and actually we need to give him more credit than what he currently gets at the moment. And this is an example of what he's really good at this part in the race, while everyone else is sort of collapsed into this understanding of this is where we're going to finish. The situation report is Polymasse hasn't got that idea in his head. He's still pushing very hard on these 16-lap-old hard tyres. Tyre delta slightly in his favour around people around him. 1 lap old, younger, versus Radadal and Gavroche. So, that will fall in his favour slightly as well. But he's now 1.1 behind Radadal and actually getting very close, perilously close here, to potentially having DRS. DRS detection point, I believe, is here, and he has actually gone into DRS of Radadal, so he's welcomed himself into the battle for P4 for BRC.
He certainly has. It's been a very good effort here from Polymassy, and that gap was over 3 seconds at one point. And yes, these two have been squabbling a little bit. Yes, they were battling with Tony as well, who's now gone up the road by over 4 seconds. But clearly, the pace of this McLaren is substantially quicker compared to the Red Bull and Racing Bull in front of him. So yeah, certainly keep an eye on that now. He's got to save his battery a little bit in the, with these less than 4 laps to go. Out in front, that gap is now 1.2 seconds between Snack and Tony in behind, and he's getting perilously close to getting a bit of DRS here. But again, though, it's a case of Silo trying to pull the strings here, try and drag his teammate along, just to not let this Haas get within that 1 second window.
Oh, this is getting very, very tight indeed now. 1.2 seconds, the difference here, looking very good indeed, as I've just caught in my eye that Wednesday have just scored, by the way, so I'm about to scream in a second, so I'll try and hold on for this one here, as Uncle is keeping a very firm eye. 1.1, he won't get DRS on this occasion on lap 31 of 33, but he has an outside chance potentially of getting into a little bit of a scrap with SCI, but they've got to work with each other, SCI. This is what they're known for. Very good with working with each other, as Uncle has fallen to 1.9 seconds back. What's happened?
That's just simply the DRS. That's what it comes down to, and he did not have the battery that he could use in comparison to the two SCI drivers in front of him. So yeah, that time that he had gained, he's just lost the best part of 4/10 of it. Now back to 1.4 again, with obviously the slightly better tyre grip. So yeah, it's a DRS game here, and that is what's helping the SCI drivers to just make sure they can stay ahead of that. But you can clearly see that Snack is struggling a little bit more compared to his teammates of Silo out in front. Yes, there's a 1-lap tyre offset between the two of them, but you can definitely see that Silo is the one that is dragging his teammate to make sure that they don't allow that hassle within it. Tony's got no battery pretty much. He's doing his damnedest to try and close in 1.1 seconds now. The gap is now 1 second. It's so close. We know the detection point is just before the final corner. Can he get a good run here through 12? He has done, you know. And with 2 laps to go, is he going to get it? Is he going to burn that battery? Is he within 1 second?
He is.
He is.
He's done it. He's done it. DRS is going to be available for Uncle, but of course Tony Reich has got no battery whatsoever, so he's got to now. He's now derating completely. There's no point using overtake. He's just going to have to drop it into none and recharge that battery. His gap is around 1.3, but that was a lot closer than the 1.9 he had on this occasion. But can he now stay within touching distance of those in front of him with that extra grip he's got available? He's now hovering around about the 1 second barrier. He doesn't have to use overtake. He can use none. Stay in none. Recharge your batteries, and you might have a chance of winning this race here and breaking up the SCI barrier. We'll have to see. With lap 32 at 33, gap is around 7/10 of a second. Use none. Recharge the battery. You've got an outside chance here, Tony.
He certainly has got a very slimmer of a chance. I mean, I don't know if the victory is on. We could certainly try and get one of these SCI drivers. He could have a go here at Snack. Is he close off coming in through turn 9? He got a fantastic run through turn 9 into 10. Silo once again locking that front left up into turn 10, but it's obviously not putting into any disadvantage. But I don't think Tony is going to be quite close enough here through turn 12, and the back end now starting to complain ever so slightly here. The rear tyres maybe going a little bit here for the GT10 man, trying to get another victory here for them. But look at that, half a second is the gap. He has the DRS, but so does Snack on his teammate, and in fact has a little bit more battery. And no game's going to be played out between the top two. They just want to make sure that they can bring this home for the Scottish outfit. Final lap of this race. Tony now within 4/10 of that Alpine in front of him.
Dirty air affecting Silo on this, Snack rather, sorry, against the back of Silo. Snack will be disappointed from a personal perspective that he won't be converting this race race pole position rather to a race victory, but in fairness, they've got a very quick driver from GT10 tucked in behind here. Now GT10 will be hoping to get 4 wins from 5 as it stands if this Uncle manages to convert this one. It's looking more and more unlikely with every passing corner, but it's been a decent effort. If there was just an extra lap or two, I think they could have had a real good opportunity at this one. Remember, there may be a time penalty that may need to be applied. The gap between him and Ryderdal is currently 8 seconds, so if he can find at least another couple, he might be in safe range if they deem to actually cut the corner at turn 1 a few laps ago when racing with the likes of Adrian and Ryderdal. But either way, it won't matter. He may go for the dive, but he's not going to have any chance of any kind of overtaking spots, I don't think. It won't really matter in the end because the Shizou Cedar Igniters have shown from pillar to post, despite the fact of all the shake-ups, they're going to come out on top as 1 and 2 here in Spain tonight with Uncle in P3. Ryderdal 8.6, 8.7, 8.8 it will be against Uncle when he comes across the line to take it P4 in the end. As I said, they're from Spain, they're in Spain, but they're in Spain with the S silent. They're not happy at the moment, RET8 nor are AMR. They're in a much worse scenario. P9 for them. Polymassy in the end finishing in P7. 1 second it was in the end to the back of Gavroche. It was a decent effort from him in that one. And then rounding out outside of the top 10 is Vantari's Nico. Epic Vale from Juve Frederick, Lucas and RWO6. A horrible race for RSC. Harm will come across the line in P15 in the end as well. The man with 2,000 subscribers on his YouTube page will at least be happy that he's managed to secure that final point for fastest stay true. Mad Dog's finishing a very lowly P16 with Matt's finishing in P17, and then White Sheep, well, let's be honest, a bit of the black sheep at the moment out on the field. A very disappointing event for him. He finishes in a very, very lowly P18. Very disappointing for the AMR man.
Yeah, obviously that all stemmed from that wing damage that he sustained very early in the race. I think probably on lap 1 actually. So yeah, that just cemented his race. He and Matt actually both going for a fastest lap attempt towards the end. They both pitted, and I think it was Matt who came out on top on that one. I could be wrong. Could have been White Sheep. I don't know. But if I'm brutally honest, one of them got it though. Either way, but I'll tell you who did perform and do this just right tonight was SCI Silo. He took the sprint race victory. He's taken the feature race victory as well to go with it. He may not have had the pole position twice. That went to his teammate, but when it came to picking up the points and doing the work, it is Silo who has done it once again. But it's a 1-2 for SCI. And do you know what? Potentially, it could have been maximum points enough for them if it wasn't for Snack's issue in the sprint.
Yeah, could have been as well. It's going to be a massive points haul for them going into this one as well. I'm just going to keep a firm eye on the sheets to see if they are getting updated. They're not at the moment. We'll see if they do later down the line. Uncle finishing within a second of SCI is a great performance on the inverse strategy. Rydal nearly 10 seconds behind then, 9.7 it was in the end, with Adrian in 5th place, actually just over 10 seconds. So if it is a 10-second penalty for Uncle, he'll only fall to P4 anyway. Gavroche is in P6 overall with Polymassy 7th, Azim in P8, even Esri P9, Nico rounding out the top 10. Bale from Frederick, Lucas, RWO6, Harm, Mad Dogs, Matt, and White Sheep finishers. Seeb and Shumi were not. We'll take a quick look then at the calendar before we wrap it up here. We are not racing next week. We need a breather after what has been a little bit of a interesting Spanish Grand Prix, and certainly an absolutely mad 7 races in this World Online Racing Legacy Division calendar, and what has been a mad season. After our week break, of course, we're at Belgium for our final F2 cars race, round number 8. Our final Fours race taking part straight after on March 31st for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and that Fours event always a little bit mad to say the least. Saudi Arabia and Bahrain will be taking place in the Reverse Championship races at the same time, April 7th, and then of course the United States Grand Prix for our final Ban Hards race, April 14th. Looking forward to that one. The Mystery Grand Prix, our final Mystery Grand Prix, will be taking place on April 21st in a more standard F1 race that you would expect. We're rounding off with a sprint race in Sao Paulo on April 28th. That is it. A very, very good half of this season. We have another half to go. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at the Belgian Grand Prix. From myself, from Adam and the rest of the team here at WOR, thanks for watching and take care. Ta-ra!